Gentlemen, good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to North Country Community Radio and WZNC LP Bethlehem. We have a very special guest in the studio, author and horse passionate. How do we say it?
Well, author of Sebastian's Adventures Diary of a Champion.
Yeah.
And also I'm a clinician and a trainer, and I train and raise my own horses. And I also do teach clinics on occasions, and I also give horse riding lessons as well. And I do specialize in dressage and light jumping. So my focus is on classical horsemanship, which works with the natural movements of the horse.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming in again. This is Karin Matey's second time here in the studio. And we had a lot of fun last time we were here and talking about your the book that we first talked about was My American Horse Family. And Karin was nice enough to bring in a nice big poster that we hung up here in the studio. So, and I picked up an extra copy at the Littleton bookstore there.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to speaking about my second book now, Sebastian's Adventure Diary of a Champion, which is quite a bit different than the first book, My American Horse Family. Diary of a Champion is more of is the story of Sebastian, the horse, Hanoverian Percheron horse, and Karin, his trainer, on its way into working himself up into the dressage arena.
Mm-hmm. And this book is a little bit different looking than the first book. It's a little bit bigger. It has colored photos, and actually the pages are actually colored as well. It's a nice, bright, happy-looking book.
It's a wonderful book. It took quite a long time to design the cover. Yes, it's the book. The size of itself is 8x11. It's a colored book. It's not just colored on the outside on the cover, but the pages themselves are colored. The pictures are covered, and each chapter in the book itself is laid out the way that one chapter is told by Sebastian the horse, and the other chapter is told by myself, the trainer Karin. So the book itself tells a story of what it's like to create a relationship with your horse, and what it's like to raise and train horses, and also the journey itself. And of course, in classical horsemanship, the greatest goal is not just working your way to the levels in dressage, but it is the partnership that you create with you and your horse, and you develop that language with your partner, and you build that bond that lasts a lifetime. So that is the greatest goal in classical horsemanship. Mm-hmm. But also, besides that, once you have that relationship, then you can build upon it. You have your plateau where you can build and then grow with your horse to the different levels in dressage or jumping, wherever you go. But the fundamentals have to be there, and that's the partnership. And when somebody does understand that, then their training becomes a lot easier and more enjoyable as well, not only for the trainer, but definitely for the horse, because there's no fun, I believe, at least not for me, when I work with my horses and I know they don't have any fun, they're not enjoying it. So it's my job as the trainer to always look out for my partner, the horse, to make sure that the horse is enjoying the journey and has fun and understands actually what I'm trying to explain to the horse and what I'm trying to teach to him. So that takes many, many years. And in classical horsemanship, there is a strategy and a plan that you follow, and that it actually takes anywhere from from 8 to 15 years to train a young horse up from the elementary levels to the medium level, and then up to the higher level in dressage to Grand Prix. So it takes anywhere from 7 to 18, 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's a long journey.
And I love that Sebastian is actually the point of view. Every other chapter is coming from the viewpoint of Sebastian. So I'd imagine you'd have to have a pretty close relationship with your horse to be able to write about what he might be thinking.
Yes, you really do. And when Sebastian first came into my life, our relationship did not start out that well. He was a young foal, and he was a colt, and colts become stallions. So when Sebastian came into my life, he was around 8 months old, and a colt usually becomes a stallion by the age of 3. So when Sebastian arrived, he was already 15 hands tall, and that's very tall because right now he's 18 hands tall.
Wow.
As a grown horse.
Wow.
So as he started to mature more and more into stallionhood, he became more and more aggressive. So we had to make a decision that our journey would be a lot better if he became a gelding, and that's what we had to do in terms to continue our training and build our relationship.
Yeah. Well, excellent. And for those who didn't get to hear a little bit about your background on our last interview, would you like to let people kind of know a little bit about how you began with horses and your adventures there?
Sure. Well, my journey already started in childhood. I was around horses, but I never had my own horses. It was my dream to always have a horse, and I had a neighbor and a friend. She was a woman, and she had a lot of horses, so I often visited her farm, and I helped out wherever I could. And so as a thank you from her to me, she allowed me sometimes to sit in the saddle and ride to the stable. So that was my start. And I watched her, and I was very inspired by her smoothness and the way she trained her horses and the way she worked them. And back then I didn't know she was training in dressage. She was doing jumps as well, and I was very inspired. So as a child, I already started to fantasize about having my own horses and training them up. And of course, I saw myself in front of a big audience. So, but then it didn't inspire until finally my family and I moved to New Hampshire. That was actually the time was right that I decided the time to have horses was then. So, and then of course I started to have my older horse, one horse, and I had a great experience with her, and her name was Krista, and she taught me a lot. Our journey together was 17 years, and then I had another horse, Cairo, and of course we had a little trouble as well, but that worked out well. And then I decided it was time to raise the young horses, and that's when I started to have my first foals, Keanu, Misty, and then Sebastian and Hanover. And I always dreamt of having a black horse, and when Krista came into my life, she was gray, and so I thought maybe I wasn't supposed to have a black horse. I was just supposed to have a gray horse. But looking back now, it was actually a blessing that I had Krista first and then the other horses later, because each horse built on the other in experiences. Yeah. And so when Sebastian did come into my life, I knew he was the special horse I was waiting for. I just knew it. I just knew it.
And a lot of the history that we just kind of went over is actually in your first book, My American Horse Family, and kind of how you began getting into horses and your first horse, Krista, and it's a wonderful story. And these books are available locally. They're available at the Little Village Books and Toys, and they're also at the White Mountain Cafe and Books.
Yes.
And also online as well.
They're online with Amazon, Amazon.com,
Yeah.
Barnes & Noble, and they also have my own author's website.
Yeah.
And then they're available there, and the website address is www.karinmatey.com. That's www.karinmatey.com.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Yeah. So and you've got some recognition that's pretty notable. The New York Times Book Review.
Yes, I was very excited that My American Horse Family was featured in the New York Times, and it became it's becoming more and more recognized. It's a wonderful wonderful story, and also recently I've been accepted to Cliff. And for anybody that does not know Cliff is a children literature foundation, and it also encourages children and adults also for reading. Cliff goes to different schools, libraries, and donates their work basically there. And
That's excellent.
And Cliff also has different presenters, 55 right now, and I just became the 56th presenter to their foundation, which I'm just absolutely delighted.
That's very exciting. So it sounds like a great organization with a great mission that's helping low-income small towns get books and access to books, and you're part of that. So that's a wonderful honor. And just recently you've been accepted to that, and you're going to be listed on the website soon.
Yes, what Rebecca was the individual that interviewed me. I was delighted when she emailed me back that I was accepted, and they actually had a big meeting about bringing on the theme for horses and books. And so in the meeting, I believe that I was told that Cliff already had wanted to brought the horse theme in to their foundation, but they haven't had. But then when they saw my work, that made them decide that the time was now to actually add on to their website and bring the horse theme and the books in. So hopefully there'll be other presenters that also come with that same theme, because that is my focus. I was told they like me to stay in that focus on horses and children and people and unconditional love and bring them together.
That's excellent. Well, it sounds very, very positive, and that's really exciting. And
I believe in their mission. I think it's a great mission.
And they work with children. They work with people. Is it children of parents in jail?
That's right. They do that as well. They travel. They work with parents, with children that their parents are in jail. So what they do is they give grants. They send books to the jail, so the parents and the children can, when they have visiting rights, so the parents can read to the children, and then when the children leave, the parents can sign the book and send them home to the children. They can also make little audiobooks, which is really exciting to know, and send them home to the children.
Oh, that's great. So even though they can't be there, they can still be a part of their lives through reading. That's pretty wonderful.
I believe in that mission. I'm very happy to be a part of Cliff and be part of to uphold that mission. So it makes me very happy.
That's very exciting.
And then my work inspired. It's going to inspire so many people to to want to read and learn about horses and the relationship and unconditional love and so that's awesome. It's great.
Well, it's very exciting. The Diary of a Champion, Sebastian's Adventures, and we're going to. We have now one of the things that's unique about your books is that you have a musical CD that goes along with each of them, and we have a few tracks picked out for this book that we're going to share with everyone today. So I think we should probably go into the first track that you have picked out, and it's called "Do It for Love." And how is this song related to your story?
Do It for Love is basically when Sebastian and I worked together in the whole classical theme of horsemanship. We're not doing that to go out and become the big champion, because it really isn't about winning ribbons, because we already have done that. What this is all about, it's about building a relationship and just sharing them, and it's just about Sebastian and I and the music and the book and the sharing and
friendship
and
and
the
trust
friendship
and building that relationship.
And that's what it's all about. And
That's nice.
That's what the song is all about too. So it's a wonderful song, and it's also about maturing and getting wiser too. So that's all part of it.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear it. And thanks again. If you're just tuning in, Karin Matey is here, and she is the author of Sebastian's Adventure, Diary of a Champion. And this song is Do It for the Love.
A little better as I learn to find my way. A little stronger with each passing day. A little wiser, for life has taught me to see. A little clearer who I was born to be. A little older, my mirror says to me. Gentler, the hand that sets me free. A little brighter, the road ahead I see. A whole lot clearer, for my heart is telling me. Do it for love, girl, not for anything else. For love, girl, do it for yourself. Do it for love, girl, not for anyone else. Do it for love, girl, do it for yourself. For yourself. A little freer as I learn to simplify. A little kinder to those who pass me by. A little lighter, now I've got wings to fly. A little higher, this is the reason why I do it for love, not for anything else. Do it for love now, I do it for myself. Do it for love now, not for anyone else.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to North Country Community Radio and WZNC LP Bethlehem at 657. And we have a special guest in the studio today, Karin Matey, and she is the author of Sebastian's Adventure, Diary of a Champion. And we are talking about that book today and her just different adventures. And the thing that makes her books unique is that she creates a musical CD with each of them, and that was a track that was called "Do It for the Love" or "Do It for Love," and that was the kind of like a soundtrack to the book itself. And you collaborate with a musician that's a friend of yours that did the music for your other book, My American Horse Family.
Yes.
And tell us about your the music here.
Okay, the music was inspired by the book. Like the first CD was inspired by My American Horse Family, and now the second CD for the book, Sebastian's Adventure, Diary of a Champion. The book inspired the music. So
interesting.
Basically, the book is a reflection. The music is a reflection of the book, and it's the inspiration of the books, the thoughts, and so it's a collaboration to bring the music together. And it also symbols and the little stories in the music symbols the partnership and friendship between Sebastian and Karin, the trainer. So basically, it's the music tells the story from the book, and that's how the music was inspired. And Francine, of course, had to read the book. I sent her the book, and again, when Francine decided to write the music, she needed to feel a connection to the book, and she needed to feel inspired, and she was going to let me know if she felt that way or if she wasn't. So that meant if she felt that way, she was going to write the music, and if she didn't, then of course, then she wouldn't been able to write and blend the music. So thank God she did feel that way, and she felt the connection.
Yes.
So a wonderful CD became of it, accompanied the book. And the cover of the musical CD is absolutely beautiful because when I look at it, my heart sings. I see Sebastian's on the cover. On the inside, it's Sebastian and I together. And when you look at the picture, you can, just from the picture, tell the special relationship and bond we have.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was not something, we didn't start out like that. It was something we grew into over the years, and we've been together for almost 12 years now.
Wow.
So
that's pretty awesome. And let's see here. So let's talk about a little bit about the book itself. It's a big, beautiful book. It's colorful. And who does all the photos for the book?
Well, I love photography too. So it's a combination of myself and then my husband, Douglas.
Excellent.
Doug.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I call to him and I say, you have to come out and take a picture. You have to come out and take a picture. And he often does. But I always carry a small camera in my pocket. It's a small not a Polaroid, but it's a small camera, digital camera.
Yeah.
And even though it's a small camera, I've taken some of the most amazing pictures. It was just the timing.
Yeah.
And what I was looking, and even on the front cover, when you see Sebastian right in front, I meditated on what type of cover I would like to see, and I visualized Sebastian looking out into the open and just looking, and then have his world unfold around him. And then one morning, I took a walk up to the backfield where the horses go in the summertime and springtime, and there he was standing, and I was looking for my little camera, and I had it right in my pocket, and I took this amazing picture, and it's just a feeling. I always like to capture the spirit of the horse or any other individual animal or whatever I take a picture of. So
yeah.
And so, yeah, it was myself, a lot of pictures I took myself, and then Doug took a lot of pictures too.
Excellent. Yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful colored pictures throughout the book, and I like that the pages are actually bright and they're colorful as well.
A lot of work goes into the design of laying out the pages and the
Mhm.
script and the pictures and then the chapters. So a lot of work actually goes into designing the books. And of course, I have my wonderful publisher that works with with me, and that also helps. And then of course, I have to give a lot of thank you to my editor, Peter de la Savoy. So it really does. No author or horse trainer ever does the work by themselves. It really takes a village to bring a book together or raise up a horse. Or it takes a lot of helping hands.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful writings on the inside that so it's broken down into chapters, but you also have little acknowledgments and a creed and some unique sayings plugged in there as well. You want to talk about that kind of thing?
Yes, I do. And one that really does inspire me, because I had decided on my horses training, and I wanted to bring them up in a classical way, because the classical way in training horses works with training and praise. There's a lot of praise involved. Mm-hmm. And also it works with the natural movement of the horse and building relationships. So I decided to follow the strategy of the Spanish Riding School, which is one of the oldest and purest schools in the world that still teaches that type of training. And one of the saying on quotes I like to read because it inspired me, and there's a lot of truth in that. And I always read that little quote when I like to stand on my own path with my horses. And the quote goes like this: "The path is the goal, and the goal is the path. When you lose sight of your goal, you lose sight of your path." The Spanish Riding School. So
That's beautiful.
It's a little.
That's nice. I like the little the philosophy behind these sayings and the whole book on your horse and your friendship and connections.
It does. I even included and wrote my own horsemanship creed, so you can find that in the book as well. Yes, each chapter is laid out. One chapter, Sebastian tells his experiences in the show ring, in life in the mountains, and on the farm with his family. So there's always a lot of things that happen, but he, even though we spend a lot of time training at home, because that's what you do when you train in classical horsemanship, you don't go to shows unless you know your horse and you have advanced to that particular level and you have the right to test. So we do a lot of training at home, and then when we feel ready and comfortable together, then we do travel. So so Sebastian talks a lot about his experiences in the show ring, and I talk a lot about the experience, what it's like working with horses, what it's like training, the experience together. And so we have developed that great partnership. And then one day, Sebastian asked me to keep a diary for him for his goals. And a lot of people might think that he's a horse, he can't really talk and you can't have communication, but
That's fun.
It's Sebastian. He's a special horse.
That's right.
So he does. He is a horse with a goal. So
yeah.
So we do that. And in my training, like say, for instance, one of the chapters here, more modern horsemanship influenced by classical principles. So I study the art of classical horsemanship, but also study the art of modern sports, because dressage is not only classical horsemanship, but it's also a sport, and it's also Olympic sport too. So
Yeah.
I have to study both, and then we teach, we learn both, so we can continue to grow in the dressage arena.
And you were saying, although you do competitions, I guess you'd call them. What is the proper name for those
They
events?
They are
Competitions.
competitions. There are local shows,
Mhm.
horse shows. Some people call them horse shows. Usually they're called horse shows in local communities,
Yeah.
in towns, smaller towns. They call the dressage shows when you go to bigger shows.
Mhm.
We started to go out to the bigger shows. We have done a lot of local shows. We've done quite well.
Yeah.
And the local shows, I looked at them when we first started out. They're wonderful shows. They are jumping board to actually grow into the bigger competitions.
Oh, wow.
So
Hey, that's pretty exciting. Yeah, one of the pictures you were showing me was actually from Lancaster, Lancaster Fairground up there, and that's actually where you guys live now, right? It's up in
that's right.
Lancaster?
We've been
Yeah.
in Lancaster for 17 years, and my horses started there. I started to show them in halter class, actually, at the Lancaster Fair, White Mountain Riding Club, and some other local shows too. Sometimes at the fair, and my favorite sometimes was riding a musical freestyle, because
That's
is
kind of
what
fun.
I like
That's cool.
I like to specialize in musical freestyles, because it's dancing with your horse to music, and you have to choreography it like you're dancing with a partner, because that's exactly what you're doing.
Wow.
And so we've done some of the fun horse show there,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to Woodstock, and Woodstock now we're going to continue growing to the levels from there, and in dressage they start, musical freestyle starts right from entry level until first level, and then all the way up to Grand Prix. And they have it's a big show, more professional, still schooling shows,
Mm-hmm.
but much more on a more professional level.
Mhm.
So there's a lot more ask of, so it becomes a lot more competitive than just a local show. So that's where we are already are at that level.
Wow,
now.
that's
So-
pretty exciting. And you were saying earlier that this book isn't necessarily about the shows, but more about the connection with the horse.
It is. It's not all about winning ribbons and the shows, because a majority of time when you're training classical horsemanship, you train at home. And when I'm in the ring with Sebastian, sometimes when it's a beautiful day, we only go in the ring for like 10, 15 minutes. We work on the routine, and then we just head out for the trails and
cut loose.
cut loose
That
and
sounds
just
fun.
canter over the fields. And
Yeah.
but one wonderful recognition I have, and I know the security I have, that when Sebastian and I do ride out to the open fields, I'm confident in him and he does in me. So I know that he's a very tall horse and he's very fast. He's 18 hands tall, and he can gallop 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. So if you don't have a well-trained horse under you and you give a command and the horse doesn't listen to you, then you have a major problem.
That's not fun.
So I know when Sebastian and I ride out, I mean, we encounter so many different wild animals, sometimes bears, sometimes moose. We go to water. He likes going to the streams. We go to the stream. We see cars, and he's my rock. I feel very comfortable with him, and I know he won't let me down. So, and sometimes I rely on him staying calm when I'm not calm, and he does that. So he knows that. Yeah, he really. He stays sometimes more calm than I am, and I can lean on him. And give you one example. One time, and this is in the book too, one time when Sebastian was very young, we used to go on trail walks. And one time it was a lot of snow, and we came across a tree was fallen. And we had already worked 2-3 miles into the woods, and we could not get over the tree. So in order, we had one choice, two choices actually, find our way around the tree or turn around and go back 3 miles. So I decided it was shorter the mile to go around the tree than to go back the 3 miles. However, though, when I looked down, there was a brook and it was frozen. So in order to get around the tree, we had to venture over the brook. And I didn't know how solid frozen the brook really was. So we had to venture onto the ice, actually. And so once we were on the ice, I started to question if that was the right decision. But looking at the ice and looking back, it was too late to turn around. There was no other way than to move forward. So I had asked Sebastian to stand on the ice, and I left him there standing while I ventured out to make sure that the ice would hold us so we could venture around. So I looked at him and I said, stand there and don't move. So he looked at me, and at first he wanted to follow me. But then he did. He stood there for almost 5 minutes, and as I was venturing off, I looked back and I kept talking to him. And then I've decided the ice was safe, so I went back and I picked him up and we ventured all the way around. So of course when we got off the ice and onto the path again, I gave him the biggest hug and told him what a wonderful boy he is. And so that was sometimes a trainer has to rely on his horse as well as the horse has to rely on the trainer. So if you have that relationship, you can do that. If you don't, you might have a major problem.
Well, it sounds like a very special horse.
He is. He really is.
He has to be. He has a book written after him. Well, he wrote half the book, actually.
He wrote half the book. One other thing, he likes to jump. He loves jumping.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I don't always have time. He likes my attention. He really does like a lot of attention. He likes a lot of time with me. And sometimes when I do barn work inside, I leave the door open. And when he can't get my attention, he looks in and he looks for me. And if he can't get my attention, he pushes over the wheelbarrow.
Now I got your attention,
So then I come to the door and pretend to be mad at him. And often I tell him, if you're a good boy, I'll come, but I have to do my work first, too. So.
Well, excellent. I think this might be a good time to jump into the second song that we have on the list from the album.
Yes.
Sebastian's Adventures, Diary of a Champion. And tell us about this song that we're going to play, I Can Do It.
I Can Do It. The song was inspired by setting goals and believing in yourself. And sometimes you will stumble and fall, and we both did. I mean, we had many obstacles, more than anybody would believe, but we also came back on our feet and we said we can do it, and we take baby steps, and sometimes we take 20 steps back and 1 forward, but it doesn't matter, we can do it, and we're going to continue to move forward. And that's what the song is. If you believe in yourself, you can live your dream if you believe in your dream.
I can do it. 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 Joy is the key. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Dream big. I can do it. Dream big. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Feel good. I can do it. Feel good. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Joy, joy, joy. It's all there for me. Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the key. Be well. I can do it. Be well. can do it. Have fun. I can do it. Have fun. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Joy, joy, joy. It's all there for me. Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the key. I can do it. 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 Joy, joy, joy. It's all there for me. Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the key. Joy, joy, joy. It's all there for me. Joy, joy, joy. Joy is the key. Joy is the key. Joy is the key. Joy is the key. I can do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to North Country Community Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. We have a very special guest. Karin Matey is here, and Karin's been telling us a little bit about her latest book, Sebastian's Adventures, Diary of a Champion. And thanks so much for being here. It's been a lot of fun again, and sharing your stories and sharing the music that goes along with your book. And I really appreciate you coming down again. It's been a lot of fun.
It's wonderful to be here. I really enjoy it. Thank you.
I guess the next thing I'd like to kind of talk about is how you were inspired by your horses.
How was I inspired by my horses? Well, the inspiration, you mean in the training?
Yeah, in the training or in the writing or however you've been inspired by your horses. They've obviously inspired you to write, inspired you to ride, and
well,
it's all in the book.
It's
yeah.
Well, everything has a natural flow. It was not something I planned to do.
Yeah.
I always wanted horses, and that was how it started in childhood. Then when we moved to New Hampshire, that was the right time. And I always am the type of person that I listen to my heart, and it was the right time. I felt it. I knew it. There was this little voice telling me it's time to have your horses. This is the perfect time. You wanted them, and I said, yeah. So when I had my horses, I had all my experience. I trained them. I also started to teach clinics, and I was really inspired. Then I fell in love with dressage. I started to grasp the concept, because you really do have to grasp the concept of classical horsemanship, and that does take a long time, because you can explain to somebody to hold the rein, to sit on the horse, but when riding is about tuning in and feeling, it's learning the concepts. Yes, you have to know the mechanical part, but then you have to put it all together. It's like driving a shift car, but you have to remember you're not in a car. You're actually sitting. So you have to have that connection. When you hold the rein, you can't jerk on the horse's mouth, because the horse could actually fall over backwards right on top of you. And that is very detrimental. You can do a lot of harm to a horse when you don't sit properly in the saddle. You have to remember that underneath your horse, under the saddle, the horse has its lungs. So if you clinch on very hard, you're actually depriving the horse of oxygen. So you have to learn how to sit, relax, breathing. The breathing and meditation came to my martial arts training. So my martial arts training also helped me a lot in the transition into working with my horses. It's about feeling, tuning in. It's mind, body, spirit connection.
Yep.
So you always want to want to find that. And I had wonderful teachers in the martial arts. One noteworthy mentioning is Master David LaJury. He was a very great influence. I studied with him for more than 10 years. And so it actually became easy for me when my horses entered into my life to work with them, because through the martial arts, I had learned to tune in the mind-body connection. So I was able to tune into my animals on a mental level, and having been around animals all my life at home. I come from a family with a restaurant and a big farm, and so I've been around animals. So all those experiences I had all of a sudden came together and became a collaborative in working with my horses. And then, of course, I had to learn the classical horsemanship, and I met many facets of them as well. And it's nothing against any teacher, but it's the philosophy. Every teacher, one question, you go to the next, you get a different answer. So you ask different teachers, you get different answers. However, in classical horsemanship, you ask one question,
You're going to
you
get the
get
same
the same
answer.
answer because it's the same training.
Yep.
So you can actually, when your horse is trained in classical horsemanship the right way, you can actually just sit on somebody else's horse commands because they're trained the same way.
Interesting.
So in that philosophy, it's wonderful, because in the olden days, when horsemen showed their horses in dressage, often the judge was able to sit on the horse and test the horse out themselves and see. So even the horseman didn't have to, still wrote the test, because you have to follow the test, but the judge was able to actually ride the test because there was classical horse. So that's a big plus. Your horse is trained in that way. But if I now would actually go to somebody else's horse in many different towns, there might be one, maybe none. And then
it could be a totally different style.
That's right. Completely different style trained. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
However, though, there is a way of training a horse. I see a lot of horses when I watch people ride. Their hands, they're pulling on the horse's mouth. They're not relaxing their elbows, their joint.
Right.
Their
The
legs
basic
are clamped.
things.
That's right. They have some of the individuals. They call themselves riders. In the Spanish riding school, you can't call yourself a rider until you train a foal all the way to Grand Prix.
Okay.
That's when, in 12 years, it takes 12 years before you're even allowed to call yourself a rider.
Wow.
So here, everybody calls himself a rider. And sometimes I see horses wear double bridles, and they're not schooled. The individual's never been schooled in how to use double bridles. And they're actually doing a lot of damage and injustice to the horse itself. So in classical horsemanship, you're not allowed even to think of double bridle until you have at least 6 or 7 years of schooling under your belt and your horse is trained.
Wow.
So everything is built on a plateau. There is no advancement to a horse or the rider unless they have grasped the idea of that type of training before they can actually move on to the next step. If you don't have a sequence and a plateau and a pyramid to train by, then you're just riding on a horse, and that's okay if that's what you like, as long as your horse is not become very obedient in the way you're working with the horse.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of opposite. And this is why I also, at the back of my book, Sebastian's Adventure Diary of a Champion, I also, anybody that buys my book and learns from the book, some of the proceeds go to education in rural towns, because it's very important to continue advancement and understanding, because growth, like education, is the doorway to growth. There is no advancement if there's no education, the right education.
Right.
And as long as I have horses, and this lifetime is not enough, I make it my duty to continue learning and growing and understanding my animals. If I stop learning and growing, so will my horses. And if I stop growing, then I can't teach them any. I can only teach them, so I have to become more in order to teach them.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah. No, it's very, very, very cool stuff. And you teach some of these clinics about caring for horses from the ground up.
Yes, my clinics, I basically teach the clinics. I start with working with the horses in the box. Mainly they have to learn how to care for the horse, because caring is more like caring before riding the horse. So there's a systematical way to start out in your horsemanship journey. And one is you learn everything about a horse and how to care for them, feed them, their hoof care, vet care, everything included, bridling, brushing, lunging, everything. And then when you actually like to look into learning how to ride, that's a different clinic altogether. You have all my students start on the lunge line, because you have to learn how to sit, and your physique is very important. Not does it look classical, but it's very practical. We don't want to just focus on pretty. We want to focus on practical, because your hands, your seat, you have to learn how to hold your hands when you hold the bridle, how you sit, and then where your legs are. So it's always seat, legs, hand last. So you have to learn how to have the horse move forward from the back, which we call the motor, and forward, and then the hands come last. So the hands are like the paintbrush of an artist. So that's just the ending touch, like just give them the extra touch to the painting. But a lot of writing comes from your seat. So if you, the rider, cannot sit relaxed and go with the flow of the horse's movement, you stop in the horse. If you cut if you picture your end of the spine in the saddle, if you are all tight and clamped up, basically what you're doing, you're driving your spine into the horse's spine. So so if you don't, so this is why in classical horsemanship you learn that, and actually the training, once you sit on a horse, after you learn everything that the horses needs, then it takes about 2 to 3 years for the rider to actually develop the seat on the lunge line, so there won't be any other advancement in the saddle.
Oh, wow.
So you have to develop your seat, because you don't really need your hands to ride. You just need to develop your seat in your leg. So the hands are last. And then when you do include the hands, you have to communicate, because as soon as you touch the rein,
they can sense.
They can not only sense it, but your hands do not belong to you anymore. So your hands, when you touch the rein, belong to the horse's mouth.
Interesting.
All the way up to the elbow. So if you sit and you hold your hands stiff, then the next thing your horse's head will flip up. So you have to with the flow. You have to go with the flow, and you have to develop the feel, and that can take you 4 to 5 years by itself, and then to perfect it for the rest of your life. It's like in the martial arts, when I first started my training, I always wanted to be as advanced as the black belts, and then I always said to my teacher, Master Lajuri, I said, teach me something new, teach me something, and he always used to say, no, you got to perfect the basics, back to the basics. I can't teach you anything new until you get that perfected. And it's the same, and that's why we're trained by the pyramid of the classical horsemanship training horses. So there's a lot to be said about training, and it's not just about jumping on a horse's back and winning the ribbon, because it's not the pretty horse gets the prize.
Yeah.
It's the most educated horse and rider that should,
Yeah.
and that's if it's fair.
Sure.
But in today's, unfortunately, in today's show world, not every judge is actually
Educated in that
educated
way.
enough. So when they see a horse come into the show ring, their legs go up in the air, and the horse is ridden in the front only, like handwritten.
Mm-hmm.
There's handwritten, backwritten. So when you ride the horse, you're supposed to ride the horse from the back forward. But when you hand ride a horse, you just ride it from the back, from the front. So you only have control of the neck, basically. But if you ride the horse from the back forward, you have control of the whole horse.
Huh.
When I say control, working with the horse, not really showing the horse who is boss.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that a lot. I show that horse who is boss.
That's
not what it's about, because unfortunately, horses can have very long memory, and when they do have the opportunity and they find out they're stronger than the individual trainer, then you have better developed that relationship with your horse. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. One other thing I was going to ask you about was you have some quotes from some people, and it was from some kids that read your book, and that's also included in the book, which I thought was nice.
Yes, I have a note from Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a little girl. She's probably not as little anymore now, but she came to one of my clinics, and she loves horses, and her dream is that one day she'll have horses of her own, and she will have a horse farm that she's going to call Dandelion Farm. So
that's so cute. Yeah.
And she really loves that Sebastian has so many horses on the farm that he loves, and they love him and the family that the horses have, how much they love them. And so she just really loved reading the book as well. So
that's so great.
That makes it...
that's nice to get some responses, and it's nice for you to include their responses in your book. I'm sure they appreciated that.
They're wonderful memories, and I'm always very inspired when I can touch anybody that is really seriously inspired and on a path to learning the right horsemanship, the right way to communicating with the horse. Absolutely. I'm always ready to lend a helping hand, and
that's great.
And I'm there to guide them or introduce them to horsemanship and how to work with horses and how to learn how to ride, and so. Excellent. And then there's one of my other students. Her name is Taylor, and I'm very proud of her too, because she did make the right decision, because when she came to one of my horsemanship clinics, she learned the big commitment that it takes to have horses, and horses can live a long life. They can live into their 30s. Wow. So if you have a young foal and maybe 1 year old, and the horse can live into their 30s, that's a big commitment. And horses, they're family. They have a very difficult time to readjust to different homes, and I know sometimes riders buy horses for one reason, and then they change their mind, and then the poor dear horse is for sale, and it's very detrimental. And that's what I teach in the horsemanship clinic, to learn what the responsibility is, like what are you actually getting yourself into having a horse? Are you able to fulfill the commitment? Yeah. Are you able to do it?
Those are good questions to be asking people.
So, and that's when Taylor came to my farm to learn that, and she was only 6 years old, and she stayed for a while. She learned a lot about horsemanship, and then her parents thought she was ready, and they bought her one horse first, and then the second, and she turned into a teenager, and the responsibility became big. And so what made me so proud of her, because Taylor considered selling the horses, and she came to me to talk to me about it, and I told her the decision has to be up to her, but I reminded her of the clinic when she came and that it's very hard for horses to be replaced and sent to other homes. And so I left the decision in her hand, and I found out later that she recommitted and she decided to stay true to her promise she had made to the horses.
That's wonderful. That's a nice story. Well, thanks again so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you again on the radio show. And let's think here. Is there anything else that we want to add to our discussion today? You've given out your thanks and appreciation to everyone that has helped you with the book, and thanks again for being here. I really do appreciate it.
Well, I have to also say thanks to my publisher,
All right.
Author House, because they are very supportive and the wonderful work they do. And then again, thanks to Peter de la Savoy for all his editing support, and he's been a real inspiring friend. And then, of course, my husband Doug, I with all my dreams and aspiration, he's always the person to go to because he has a tractor and we have lots of hay bales and a lot of work to be done on the farm. So I can always call on him, and he's always there to support. So that's very helpful.
Excellent.
And and I'm just, and also thank you to my horses, because without them, none of my work or my books, the music, would have never become off.
Excellent. Thanks so much again. Karin Matey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in. She's the author of Sebastian's Adventure, Diary of a Champion, and also My American Horse Family. You can find the books at the Little Village Book and Toy Store in Littleton, and also at the White Mountain Cafe and Bookstore. And what is that in Groveton? Gorham. That's a Gorham cafe, and also online. Her website is karinmatey.com, and it's KARINMATEY.com. Amazon.com, BarnesandNotables.com, and all major bookstores. Wow, yeah, excellent. And let's play that last track. This is a track that is the last track on the CD, correct? And it's actually a different version of the last song on the first book CD as well.
Yes, it's Joy to the Universe, and that's how I feel. I'm very thankful for how everything unfolded.
All right, well, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank the universe for joy in co-creation. Thank the universe with appreciation. Thank the universe for abundance and well-being. Thank the universe, for life is everlasting. Joy to the universe, joy to all creation, joy to the universe, spirit and connection, joy.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in again, ladies and gentlemen. North Country Community Radio and WZNCLP Bethlehem. Thank you, Karin Matey, for coming in and talking about your book. And it was a great interview, and I had a great time, and I hope you all enjoyed listening. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in. We're just going to go.